This is the Probity Q&A that takes place every 2 weeks on Mondays at 6 p.m. till 7:30 p.m. So if you have any questions about the probity process because you want to engage in lawful tax resistance, then go to the probity.co.com website, sign up, and you'll get sent details of the next call. This particular call was recorded on Monday, the 14th of October. Please share, spread the word, and stand for peace.
Take the first step towards online privacy. Get NordVPN.
I'm all right at the moment, thank you. Hope everyone else is good.
Good. I'm glad to see that's a scarf. I thought for a minute you'd hurt your neck. I thought he's in a brace.
No, I'm just feeling in a purple mood.
Oh, how lovely.
And like you said in your email, they've treated it as a complaint. So it was a stage 1 complaint and they knocked it back, and then it's gone to a stage 2 and they've knocked it back again. And they've just basically said, I'm a naughty girl and I have to pay my tax bill. So they've given me another 6 months to raise it with, let me have a look where they've put on this, an adjudicator to investigate the complaint. So they've given me an address in Nottingham saying the adjudicator's office will normally expect you to take your complaint to their office within 6 months of the final reply from us. So their final decision was that I have no standing in law for what I've sent into them. They've absolutely, completely ignored the deed of trust. They've just said it was a complaint. So now I'm a bit like, I don't know what to do, and I'm scared because I own my property. I own several properties, and I don't want them slapping any kind of
charging
fees on them, charges on them. So I'm a bit, I don't know what to do. I'm scared, basically. I don't want to go down that avenue, really. But I have said what I've said, and I've written pretty good letters, I think. But like you said, they're just ignoring us.
Yeah, it's a very familiar problem. Sorry, you were going to say.
Chris, can I come in here, please?
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, Michaela, I'm in a similar situation with HMRC with regards to capital gains tax. However, what I've done is I've sent them an affidavit.
Okay.
And the affidavit says that I've paid by deed of trust. It's illegal for me to pay, and then I've cited the provisions from the International Criminal Court Act and the Terrorism Act. And I've also told them in my affidavit that an unrebutted affidavit stands as fact. Now, prior to me sending the affidavit, they'd already referred me to a debt enforcement agency. And what I wrote to the debt enforcement agency, and I said to them, this was on Hugh's advice a few weeks ago, I asked them, do you have a properly executed court order? If you do, please send me a copy. And what they did instead was they wrote back to me and they asked me for my date of birth. Okay. And I wrote back to them and I said, you've got no lawful reason for corresponding with me. You haven't got a court order which allows you to claim these funds from me. Can you please remove all my information from your database according to GDPR? And I cited the specific GDPR regulations. And I used ChatGPT for this bit, by the way, the free ChatGPT. And I haven't heard from them. Now, with my perspective is for them to seize the money from my salary or from my assets, they would first have to take me to court. HMRC would have to take me to court before, and I assume they'd have to take you to court if they wanted to seize any of your assets. Now, if HMRC were to take me to court now, well, I've got this unrebutted affidavit because they replied to my affidavit, and what they said is, you can't use trusts to pay taxes that are due. You have to pay taxes that are due. They make no reference to the International Criminal Court Act. They make no reference to the Terrorism Act. They don't make any reference in any of the correspondence, previous correspondence. Therefore, my affidavit stands unrebutted because they haven't challenged those elements of it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to send them, I think it's called a default notice, which essentially says, look, my affidavit stands unrebutted. You haven't done anything. You haven't proven your case. Leave me alone. And I'm going to use ChatGPT for this. Now, if they were to take me to court, well, I've got this unrebutted affidavit. And then in all my letters to them, I've said to them, in every single letter, I've said, look, I'm committed to following the law, that I'm not going to violate statute. I want to make sure that I'm acting legally and that you're also acting legally. So I've got all this written evidence. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, what you've just said to me. It's just I'm a bit rabbit in the headlights, and I didn't think of it in that manner. I just got to this point now, and I'm like, oh, what do I do?
I don't think it's too late. By the way, they said to me it's a complaint, and I kept saying to them, stop treating it as a complaint. It's not a complaint. I'm actually now going to put that it's in a dispute, which I think has a different legal standing or definition to a complaint. I'm going to say it's a dispute. They kept saying, oh, you can't not pay because of your personal beliefs. And I keep pointing out it has nothing to do with my personal beliefs. This is a matter of statute. So, and then my position always has been that if it gets too hairy, I can always cough up.
Yeah.
In which case, well, if I do cough up, well, you know, I can afford to do that, and I can pay in installments and stuff. But in the meantime, it's all part of the struggle. It's all part of the resistance.
Yeah. Michaela, can I make a suggestion as well? We have just today developed a new response to debt collectors or tax collectors, and we're putting it up on the website. I don't know if Susie's managed to do that yet, but certainly it'll be up in the next day or so. And what I would suggest is have a read of that, see if you can get a copy from Rich of his affidavit, and then with the two of them have another approach to the Revenue and Customs.
I'm gonna anonymize my affidavit and then post it in the chat for people to download.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. I think the only other thing I was following was the affidavit by David Barron Ward. I've listened to it. I've not really understood it properly yet. I need to go back through it. It's very long.
Yeah, can I just say, Michaela, that David Barron Ward's one is excellent, but it is based on civil law. And what we are trying to do is to focus on the criminal law and the criminal offences committed by the individual tax collectors in the Revenue and Customs, including Jim Harrod and all his subordinates. So it's focusing on crime and criminal offences rather than on civil debts.
Okie doke.
But we will be in a civil court, though, Chris, won't we? So
no. I mean, well, it depends on their issue, but we have to get the criminal offences into a criminal court, as well as responding in civil areas. But we've got to keep focusing on the criminal aspects of their behaviour.
I think the reason I've come up against the brick wall is because they basically said, right, we have made our judgment and we're not going to go any further. And then that's when they've said you can go to an adjudicator's office, whoever that is. So they're kind of passing the buck. So do I just keep responding back to the people at HMRC?
I think it's important to respond. Sorry,
Chris. I think send them an affidavit.
Yep.
Send them an affidavit. An affidavit is a statement of fact. Signed by a notary or a solicitor, and they have to rebut the facts within for it to have any validity. I just want to say that I'm a child protection social worker, and I deal with similar sort of stuff as a child protection social worker, where I'm in a court proceedings right now with the parents, and I'm saying, look, your child is not going to come back to you because you did this and this and this and this. The parent has replied in a signed statement, which is as good as an affidavit given that we're in court proceedings, saying, well, what about A, B, C, D, and E? But they haven't rebutted one of the critical elements of my statement, which is I have direct evidence of the harm they've caused this child. They just so that will stand as fact within the court case because they haven't challenged it. So that evidence gets accepted by the judge. It's the same deal. My understanding is the same deal with an affidavit.
Yep. Thanks.
Yeah.
And also,
Okay.
Michaela, can I just ask you? 'Cause, and by the way, you're better off with a notary. But do you have your stuff in a trust? In trusts? Your
No, because do you know what the problem's been? Is I've had so much conflicting information that it's kind of made me rabbit in the headlights, and I've froze, and I've not known what to do. So I've spoken to solicitors about different avenues for different things, and I get told one thing, and then I get told another, and in the end, you just go, "Well, I don't know what to do anymore."
Yeah.
So because I've got a couple of properties which I want to leave to my daughter, and I was told that I couldn't even sign them over to her without having to then pay capital gains ahead of time. So no matter which way, they seem to have everything sewn up and wrapped up.
Yeah.
Can I just say, but there's a difference between a public trust and a private trust?
Yes, yeah, I believe so.
And so the private trust wouldn't have those limitations on it. And then the RX1 that someone mentioned, you allocate 2 people who have to be requested permission before they put a charge on your property using the RX1, I believe. I'm no expert, but...
But even to put the RX1 in, you have to know what you're doing in order to submit it to the council. And that seemed overly complicated as well.
Well, do you know Trina, that she's at the private trust?
I spoke to Trina, God, about a year ago. But again, it's just life seems to take you by.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I'm trying to get her to come and talk to everybody next 2 weeks away, so that people start asking questions about trusts and things. Because obviously, you need to protect them, your properties and things like that.
Yeah, but I'm kind of along the same lines as Rich, as in, if it gets too hairy, I can negotiate and pay it. It's not about that. It was about standing in your truth and just saying this is wrong and you're wrong. But I am a bit of a scaredy cat. I'm a bit like, oh my God, what now? But if you post a copy of your affidavit, and I'll have a look at it and glean something from it, I would appreciate that, because I will go back on another response. I think it was because they sent me this letter saying about an adjudicator. Well, you know damn well what the adjudicator's going to say.
Actually, no, you don't.
What?
Because somebody else went to the adjudicator, and I think it's Lilius, and she basically.
I have the letter here.
Yeah, and she put all her points. You say, Lilius, you say.
Okay, so I got this a couple of days ago. I write further to your previous letter, which was sent to you on the 6th of the 9th regarding your account. This is with HMRC Revenue and Customs. Now, this is for my business account, which I lumped in corporation tax and VAT. We'll see if they accepted the VAT. I can confirm that following this, we have received a response from our client who advised that they have logged your complaint and also held the account with Advantis. I can see that following this, the account has reached the end of our collections process and as such has been closed and returned to HMRC. The account is now closed on our system and no further action will be taken by Advantis in relation to this matter. If you have any further disputes regarding this account, you will need to contact HM Revenue and Customs directly.
Excellent. I had the same thing.
So in plain English, that means they've dropped it?
Well, Advantis have dropped it. Now, whether HMRC have is another matter. But since HMRC are the one who have engaged Advantis on their behalf, I would hope that HMRC have as well.
And
how do you get Advantis to back off?
Sorry, who are Advantis? Are they the debt enforcement?
They're debt collectors.
So how did you get them to back off?
I've just followed the process, and every step of the way, I keep sending all of the international legislation, and kept sending copies of the trust, and just kept repeating.
Okay.
Can I come in here? Because the case that I'm thinking of, she got in touch with the adjudicator and put her case to the adjudicator, and the adjudicator responded that they saw precisely what their argument was, and didn't say so in so many words, but said, "Well done." So they understand what we are on about. So, but if you do apply to the adjudicator, you've got a further delay before things go on. But
well, because they said I've got 6 months up until having, well, more or less 6 months you've got until you speak to the adjudicator. I kind of thought if I kick the can down the road, we'd get past April.
Kick the can down the road. Okay, do everything to kick the can down the road. You want as much time between events, if you're going to call it that way. Okay, because it then gives you a time to make a decision as to which way you're going to go. Okay, but whatever it is, you cannot have somebody knocking on your door without a valid court order. Now, in order to produce a valid court order, HMRC has got to take you to court. And in my experience so far, with the process of going to tribunal for a VAT case, we are still waiting for a court date. They don't, if they had the answer to this, they would have put us in court already. They don't have the answer yet.
I was worried that they would put a charging order without doing that.
Can I share my experience on the same matter?
Yep.
Hi everybody. So I had the same thing with Advantis about 9 months ago, and I referred them back to HMRC. I said, I've settled this with HMRC. I sent them the copy of the trust. I sent the same letter as you received, Elias, to me saying, fine, the matter's closed. We'll deal directly. We'll forward our comments on to HMRC, but the matter with us is closed. I never heard anything back from HMRC. Brilliant.
So when it comes to HMRC, they have got to take us to court. This is what is, this is the bottom line. They've got to take us to court. And so far, they can't grab that particular, it's a bunch of thorns. Although Rich sent me this morning an email, and Chris, and that is an interesting development, but it's not going to go anywhere either.
So can I just add one thing, Michaela? I do think it's important to sign a latest trust deed and send them a copy of that. So we're making it tighter and tighter and tighter every time, and they will find it impossible to prove that we are breaking the law, and they may well find that impossible to persuade the court that they are not breaking the law. So do send that deed in.
Okay, so I'll look on the website and I'll update my trust. Is there anybody I can work with in the group to bounce off? Because at the moment I'm just doing it all on my own, and that's why I'm...
If you write any emails to info@propertyco.org, it's .org, myself and Hugh, and I'll give Rich and everybody, the website's going to change on Wednesday, but it'll be exactly the same, it's just a different design. So we'll do everything through that, info@propertyco.org, and there's four of us will be answering there.
Brilliant, thank you, Susie.
Whereabouts roughly are you based, Michaela?
Okay, thank you.
Michaela, where are you based?
I'm in Manchester, Prestwich, Manchester.
Manchester, right, thanks. We may find somebody in the area to help you.
Thank you, I'd appreciate that.
Brilliant, well done though.
Chris, can I ask, this new trust that you're now making public, how is it tighter? What's the difference? And then if I've already sent the trust deed, should I send them this updated version?
It's updated in a number of ways. We've added extra example, which is the Home Office letter to Tony Rook, which is an important extra evidence from the Home Office saying that Crown servants will be breaking the law, Section 15 of the Terrorism Act. So it's useful for our defence. That's one thing. The second thing is that I have updated it to the 1st of January 2025 on the grounds that several people have approached me to say they think action is going to happen earlier than next April. And the sooner we get our date, if we can bring the date forward to the 1st of January and we all start to operate that, it'll help enormously in saying everything prior to the 1st of January 2025 has been illegal and criminal, and therefore we are not liable for any taxation whatsoever or payments of money to the British government prior to the 1st of January 2025. So and there are a number of other small adjustments and changes to the wording in the Act, which I hope you will find useful.
I'll put that up tomorrow. And the other thing it's worth pointing out, like you say, Chris, things are updating all the time. Like, I think a load of Jewish people stormed the New York Stock Exchange, didn't they, yesterday, closed it down. I mean, there's people are so angry now, especially seeing the pictures of Palestinians burning to death, while there was a British spy plane going over Gaza. I mean, it's just gone too far. These people are burning to death while Keir Starmer's, selling UK PLC to people like BlackRock.
Can I ask a related question, please?
Yes.
With the, I think Rich asked the question as well. With respect to trusts that have already been submitted with a date of April 2025, can you send this revised document as a revision to your previous trust?
Yes, I mean you can as a substitute in a way.
Okay.
It just substitutes from your older one. Keep the older one because that goes back and is maybe useful in court. But the new one you can do as of tomorrow, and it will help. It takes nothing away from your case, but may add to it.
I did actually have a quick look at it, and I like the fact that it's quite generic in as much as the attached letter can specify the amount and who it's for, whereas the trust itself, you don't have to do it multiple times.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
And I guess, Chris, the question would be that I think Rock is asking is, do we need to specifically mention that the old trust is no longer valid?
No, don't say that. It's valid. This is just a new one on top of it. It's you don't need to say the old one is invalid.
They've got two different dates for the beneficiary. Well,
that's all right. That's fine. So we need another one on the 2nd of January or whatever.
Good. Okay. Melly.
Thank you. Melly.
Yeah. Melly, you there? Melly? Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you, guys. Right, I have now, since April, put my council tax into a deed of trust, like many of you others. Got very, very frustrated at how monies were being used and abused. Always paid my taxes, but just got to the point, enough's enough. So sent a number of letters, got completely gaslit, sent the copies to police, my local MP, council, everything. They all got a copy of the same thing. And I just kept getting demands for council tax, which again, I think, having been on here a couple of times now, realise that seems to be par for the course. Right, so we've now had a letter obviously suggesting or requesting that I go to court on the 1st of October, which has gone and been. It was the application for the, sorry, what's it? The
liability order.
The liability order, thank you, Susie. So, so that's come and went, and I have heard nothing. We're now on the 14th, so we're 2 weeks past that court date. Now, the other thing that's in the mix is that I'm in the process of selling my property, and probably due to exchange contracts within the next week or so, and looking to move at the end of this month. So my wobble, my fear now is that as we get to that point, and obviously monies are then being passed from my buyers into my account, can that be accessed by the government to take out the council tax prior to me getting the value of my property?
No.
That's thank you.
Have you got a charging order on your house?
A charging order?
No, there won't be a charging order yet.
Can't do anything.
Yeah.
Okay. So, well, I don't know what a charging order is. Can you explain that?
So this is the follow up from the councils once they've realised that they can't get enforcement agents to come and get the money from you.
Right.
The enforcement agents give the job back to the council,
Okay.
The council will then try to get the money off you through your employer if you're employed.
No, I'm not employed. Self-employed.
Okay, self-employed. So excellent. So then the next step that they've got is to put a charge on your property,
Right.
which means that when it is sold, they've got a access to the funds.
Yeah.
However, for them to be able to achieve this in the time that you are going to sell, there's no chance. There's no chance.
Okay, cool. Because I mean, I completely intend being totally transparent with them. You know, once the move has occurred, I shall give them my new address so they can still contact me. It's not about playing their illegal and criminal game of dismissing paying. I utterly want to be above board with the money's there. You comply, you start making, recompense for the behaviour that you've currently been showing, and I'll happily pay my council tax with interest. But until that time, the money is staying in the account, and that's I feel quite passionately and strongly about it, but I could feel myself getting worried and cross at the same time that they could literally just dip their snouts into my bank account. That was my fear, Hugh.
They can't, but are you buying something else?
Not yet. No, I'm going to rent for a while.
Are you in the same council, perchance?
No, I'm going to be moving. I'm in Frome in Somerset at the moment. I'm going to be staying down with friends in Cornwall.
Very good. So change of council will help.
Right. Okay.
And I think you don't have to notify the new council that you've moved. Is that right? Somebody else that knows it.
I was just about to say there was a High Court ruling that you're not required to notify the council of council tax purposes if you moved house.
Yeah, I've got no issue with telling them. In fact, I absolutely want to let them know, so that I can be, should obviously it goes to the 11th hour, I'm the one that's actually, playing the game legally. I don't want to be, playing a game of cat and mouse or hiding from my responsibilities. Does that make sense?
Good.
Yeah,
that does make sense. As a child protection social worker and someone who's home educated, where there is no legal requirement for you to tell the council that you're moving and where you're moving to, don't tell them. Don't make their job easier.
Okay.
You're not breaking any statute or whatever. We have to resist, I think, in every single way that we can, no matter how small or how slight it is. So that would be my recommendation.
I also understand that the lawyers, you can instruct your lawyers not to put the tick on the who is the borough on your new documents when the sale is going through, because otherwise the council automatically gets notified. And you can say you will be responsible for your own property, not the council.
Fabulous. Thank you. That's really useful. Thank you.
And can I just ask a question as well? And this is not my business, but and if anyone else knows here, Hugh might know. Do you have to buy somewhere within 6 months to do?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know that. No.
It's worth checking. It might be capital gains. Also, you wouldn't be paying council tax anyway if you're staying with people, but there might be a capital gains issue if you don't buy somewhere within 6 months.
Wow. I don't know about that. Where have you heard that?
Oh, that was to do with when I was selling my flat. Might have changed. It was 10 years ago.
But there's no capital gains tax on the principal private residence.
Yeah, but she won't have a principal private residence in 6 months' time, will she? The whole point is just check it out.
I don't believe there should. It doesn't matter if you buy it in 6 weeks, 6 years. You won't have to pay capital gains tax on it, because it's selling, not buying somewhere else. And I don't think, I've asked about this a while ago, I don't think that applies. I don't think you have to buy it in a particular time.
Okay, well, just double check, because I know.
I will double check, but thank you. That's great.
Brilliant. Thanks very much. Debbie?
Hi, everyone. Thanks. Hi. A couple of questions, actually. You said that the HMRC needs a valid court order for the HMRC. Is that, if a council tax, is that the same as a liability order?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
But except that the liability order, as it stands now, how it's produced by the councils, because it's not really produced by the court, is not a valid court order. And there is a case about that, which is, I don't know if you've heard of it, Leighton v. Bristow and Souter.
Yeah.
Which basically supports the fact that the liability order, as produced right now, is not a valid court order.
Yeah, thank you. And also, Chris, if you're updating them very soon, then I can use that. So I'm in my second year, and I've had 2 visits with a physical letter saying, "Do not ignore, we're coming to seize your property," from Ross and Roberts. So I was just beginning to write my notice, my DSAR, to the Martin Shapter, who's the CEO or MD of Ross and Roberts. But the other bit on this side is that actually my house is flooded and they only have to look inside the window to see there is nothing inside the house at all, because there is nothing in the house. So I was going to put in there, I was actually going to mention that. It might be very clear to Mr. Manson, who's popped round, that the property is currently under a major renovation due to the flooding and therefore it's uninhabitable and entirely empty. But I didn't know whether that would confuse the matter by putting that in there.
I think if you're confused, then that's only a good thing.
Great. Okay. And then I'll await what else is, because those are one of the responses, Chris, that you're updating. Is it to send back to do a DSAR to a?
Yes, I mean, basically there's a letter and a RUC has seen it, and there's a letter and a new declaration and deed for England and Wales for individuals, and I'm currently working on a corporate one as well. So
Fantastic.
both of those will be on the website, as Susie says, soon, and in the
Tomorrow.
next tomorrow, is it, or whenever?
Yeah. And does it talk about suitor and all of that sort of stuff in there as well? Does it do what the this one's done? No.
No.
Because my DSAR at the moment is going to have all of this trespass thing and all of that malarkey, but is it better to keep it simple?
Good question. I mean, I just try and put the facts in and keep them as simple as possible, but there's so many facts that are relevant that it gets complicated. But anyway,
okay,
have a look at the new deed
I'll have a
and
look.
see
That's
how
great.
much of it you want to incorporate in a letter.
Brilliant. And then I was going to put a fee schedule in there as well on my
Yes, excellent.
response. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Genius.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Lilius?
Hi there. So I had to go into court the other day, and went in suited and booted and well prepared, and met the absolute bitch of a magistrate who didn't listen to anything I had to say, spoke over me. I actually argued with her. I thought, fuck it, I'm going to go for this. And so
good.
I completely argued with her and, talked over her. She chose to do so to me. But she wouldn't listen to anything. I mentioned all sorts of things that you had in your stuff, Chris, all the legislation, all this stuff, wasn't interested at all. So I now have a liability order. So that's the first thing. Not quite sure what to do about that. It hasn't arrived in the post yet, but I'm waiting for that. That's the first thing. The second thing is I'm done the same thing with EDF. I have 2 accounts with EDF, personal and business. And they are now saying to me, if I don't pay up, they are my credit score's going out the window. So do I allow it to go out the window? Do I keep giving them meter readings? That's the other thing. I don't know what to do about that one, the EDF bit, either.
I'm not sure about that one. Michael?
Can I have a go at that one?
Yes.
Yeah, there's 2 things you can do. When you're in court, did you notice? Hello?
Hang on. Sorry, go on, Michael.
So I'm talking to
Lilius.
Lilius, hi. Hi, Lilius. When you were in court, did you notice the magistrates or the legal advisor putting the council's representative under oath?
No, there was none of that. I didn't even, they were on a screen. They never uttered a single word until the judge turned around and said to them, and I'm going to, I am satisfied with the information. I only need to be satisfied. That's all she said. I asked if she's actually standing under her oath. But I said, you haven't even identified the person in court. I only gave my name as Lilius. But she said, I only need to be satisfied. But the only time that the person from the council said anything was to confirm that she was going to give me an 80 quid charge.
Yeah. Well, the council officer needs to be under oath, giving evidence and a factual report to the court. And the other thing is, do the magistrates give you their names?
No, but I've got them.
Did you ask for their names?
Yes, before I went into court.
And they didn't give you their names? So,
I asked for their names before I went into court. So I had those names, but they didn't offer them. but I made sure I knew who every single person was in the court before I went in, and I got that from the usher.
Yeah. Well, you've got kind of 1.5, two goes there at sending a void notice to the court because they haven't followed due process.
So the council officer was not under oath and did not state the case.
Yeah.
You don't know that he wasn't under oath, because did you witness him saying that he would, his oath?
Well, she had to have witnessed in court the council's representative.
That's right. So Lilias,
none of that.
Well, you were not part of that. You weren't let in the court before he did his oath.
No.
Did he appear on the screen after you appeared in court? Or was he already on the screen when you went?
Already on the screen.
So he may have taken the oath before you went in.
Yeah, but Lilias did not witness that.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Yeah, Lilias did not witness that, so it's completely invalid.
Okay. Council rep under oath. And the council person never stated the case. The judge just launched in. The council person did not say anything apart from, yes, there's an 80 quid charge. It's the only words that she uttered.
Yeah, yes. It's a pity you didn't ask for the magistrate's name when you were in court.
I've got them. Yeah, I've got them anyway.
Yes, I know, but the point is that if you do it in court and they refuse to give you their names, they're not carrying out correct process and liable to avoid notice.
Right.
But
and the other thing is, I asked if they recognised whether I was a living woman or not. She said she couldn't say. So I basically said, quite frankly, if you don't know whether I'm living or breathing, or basically incompetent to be sitting in that position.
Well done.
So what do I do about the EDF trying to remove my credit score and all of that?
Chris? Has he gone? Are you there, Chris? Have you frozen?
He's frozen.
Looks like a frozen shiny hair. Go on, Hugh.
Strictly speaking, Lilias, have you sent your deed to EDF?
Yep.
Okay, so they've got the information.
So it's been sent. I sent two, one for the personally and one for the business.
Okay, so they know what this is about.
Yep.
Okay, so you are withholding all of the amounts requested or billed on the grounds that are in the trust.
Yeah.
They need to take you to court to obtain a valid court order, which is something that what they will do is try to appoint an enforcement agent.
Mm.
This will be without a valid court order. This valid court order is incredibly important for all of us to understand. Okay, HMRC have not yet taken any one of us to court to deal with this matter. So HMRC are dealt with. The councils is a different matter because they think that they've got the liability order and that gives them the right, but the law is against them. Case law is against them now. And now we need to do this with the utilities in order to, again, force them to take us to court. In the meantime, you give all of your readings so that they can bill you, so that you can be seen to be putting the money aside for them until all of your conditions are met.
So, because they've just said they do not recognise what I'm doing, and I need to just pay up.
Well, you would say that, wouldn't you?
Hmm.
That's what was her name in the perfumer case? Who said? Well, you would say that.
I don't know, Christine. But the thing is that they don't recognise what? They don't recognise international law and ratified law.
And also domestic statute. Never mind international law, domestic statute. And I think, Lilias, you can also argue this is a point that Chris has made to me repeatedly, that by putting, and it doesn't make sense to me, but I trust Chris on this, right? By putting the money in trust, I have paid the beneficiary. The beneficiary, in this instance EDF, has failed to fulfill their statutory obligation to ensure that they are operating consistent with statute. They're the ones who are in the wrong. And I think it's important to keep impressing that. Look, I'm acting legally. Here's the money. I want to make sure that you're acting legally. You fail to do so. Then the onus is not on me.
Yeah. So I need to write. So basically, them threatening me with the removal of my credit score. I can rebut that then.
Send them an affidavit.
Yeah. Okay.
And I don't know much about credit scores, but maybe you go to the credit company later on, and you send them a copy of your deed of trust and say, "Look, I've paid them."
Yeah.
So send them an affidavit.
Okay.
Fingers crossed that will shortcut this whole process, and then we can get on with other forms of peaceful resistance against war.
Yeah.
And also, Lilius, on your credit score, you are allowed to put a note on the credit score, which is quite useful, because then if you bring up the deed and everything else and someone else can read it and think, oh, that's interesting, it's still advertising. All these places that look at your credit score.
Yeah.
You can say why you've got a credit score.
On the credit score, if you say you've got something you want to rebut the saying that they've lowered your credit rating, there's a note underneath, and you can add a note to your credit score and say, this is why. In other words, so you're saying, well, no, I don't have a problem with credit at all. What I have a problem with is, people breaking the law.
Yeah.
Breaking the law.
Okay.
And don't forget, what they're doing is blackmail.
Yeah.
If you don't pay us, we will do this. That's blackmail.
Yeah. Coercion.
Yep. Cool.
Lovely. Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, Debbie, brilliant. Debbie?
I forgot to mention that I'd had some interesting discussions about my liability orders, and I asked them to send me a liability order. This was Portsmouth Council. And then I don't know whether you'll be able to see it, but I got this lovely little so-called liability order with Portsmouth Magistrates Court on the top, with the date of it was actually, so they sent it the day before they actually announced the liability order, and it's got someone else's postcode on the liability order. So this is what they think is a liability order. So I've written to Portsmouth Court under ODYSEE, asking them whether anyone thinks they're taking me to court, and also suggesting they might be colluding with a fraud.
Yeah.
On the basis of this as well. So I have.
The more all of us put trouble in their ways, the better. And as Lilius just mentioned today, they are doing things unlawfully. We've just got to keep going. I mean, can you imagine the number of cases that they must be seeing landing on their desks now? And it's the people who will be reading what we're saying, who are employees. They're not the council, they are not EDF, they are not, but they are finding out the information. They are watching the news, looking at what's going on in Palestine, okay? They will be conflicted. And one day they're going to all say or provide too much pushback to their employers in saying, I'm not comfortable with this. Can we deal with this properly?
Yeah.
You just got to, not be scared, just keep pressing until it all caves in.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, Hugh, because the letter I got back from the council was very condescending and started talking about all sorts of things that were nothing to do with what I'd written. And it was trying to tell me that I could go to jail. Other people have gone to jail. Am I downloading information from the internet and just sending off? Very condescending. So I'm now going to have to write to that individual and put him under notice as well for sending me coercive stuff as well. But anyway, I just thought it was quite an interesting liability order. There you go. That's what it looks like.
Well, how can it come the day before you were in court?
Yeah, exactly.
It's invalid.
Yeah. It does make, actually brings a bit of joy and laughter to me, and all of this turgid stuff that goes on. Those sorts of things do make me chuckle.
Yeah, go on, Chris.
I'd just like to add one thing there, Debbie. On the letter that we've just put out, we're starting to push back quite hard. So I'll just read out a paragraph to you, if I may. And this is directed to the individuals who are contacting you. Now that you know that the government is using money raised by taxation for the criminal purposes of war, terrorism, mass murder, and genocide, you, as tax collectors and taxpayers, are legally and lawfully bound to refuse to obey all government orders. You also need to know that if you continue to obey government orders to pay tax and support these heinous crimes, you are personally criminally liable in law to be arrested, tried, convicted, and imprisoned alongside our political, civil, judicial, and military leaders for fundraising for purposes of terrorism and conduct ancillary to genocide. Now, I think we need statements rather like that to start to push back to them. That's on the latest letter, so you'll see you can download that from the websites.
Yeah, I'll put that up tonight. I'll put that up tonight.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.
Hi there.
Hello.
I just wanted to say a little bit about trusts. Not your one, Chris. Your one suits the purpose really brilliantly. But people have been talking about private trusts and irrevocable trusts to put their property in. And I've just done one that cost me a lot of money, and I'm now having trouble in this lovely country of mine getting the land registry to accept what I'm doing. So I think it's very important just to note that if people are deciding they're going to go for trusts, that they be very sure that it's fit for purpose, and they ask the people who are taking all their money for setting up the trusts whether there has been any success with it in the courts and whether it stood up for that. Because I think a lot of people are making a lot of money out of us, thousands in my case, and we're not getting evidence. We're not maybe, I had it recommended to me, and I'm very much saying that this is what I've not done that I should have. Really been asking quite difficult questions and quite challenging questions of the person that did it for me. And I've just got to carry on with it now because it's cost so much already. But just to note, to be careful of that, whoever's doing a trust for you, that there is evidence that it has worked and it is standing up in court.
That's exactly what we all need, evidence, facts to back us up.
Yeah, I think we're all, it's like when you jump from the frying pan, which is obviously really horrible and corrupt, you don't want to jump into another in the fire that
absolutely right.
is bad. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Jennifer. And Darren?
Yeah, hi everybody.
Hi.
Great to join the meeting. We're actually out in Costa Rica. We left the UK in 2021 because we were very dissatisfied with everything that was going on. We've dealt with the system quite a lot in the past. We've tried several different routes. I've written to HMRC in the past along the same lines as the information that you've put forward, Chris, and it's been very. I received the response that it was an obligation to pay tax, etc., and that it wasn't my opinion or anything. It didn't count. So to see that the way you put the declaration of trust together and everything is amazing. Obviously, we've got properties that are under mortgages in the UK. So I want to send in these notices and everything, but the problem I have is, do I put the notices with my Costa Rican address where they would write back to, or would I put it as a UK address? And obviously, if that was the case, then I'd be relying on somebody else to forward these notices or to receive the mail, which they're not really very happy about doing, another family member. What would you advise in that capacity?
I think he's just got cut off. Chris, do you want to try and come back on again? Chris? Yeah. Okay, brilliant. Okay, perfect. Speak to you in a sec. Right. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, he's just trying to come back on again. He keeps getting cut off.
Yeah, okay.
But if you need an address, obviously we can probably provide one if that's the issue. But yes, you've got several properties, so you're paying tax on them. I missed the thing, sorry.
Yeah, so basically what's happening at the moment, we were advised a few years ago to set up an LLP because they've changed all the taxation rules so that we can't claim. So we've got to basically now, with the taxation system, we have to declare all of our income before mortgages as profit. Which then pushes us into the higher tax bracket quite rapidly, and then we have to then pay tax on 20%. We have to pay 20% tax on the mortgage payments. So, I mean, if you're like talking £30,000 mortgage every year, then you're talking nearly £6,000 in tax on money that you've paid to the mortgage companies, in addition to any taxes on profits. And obviously, we moved out of the UK because we moved to Costa Rica, where they don't have a standing army. But we didn't want to be paying into that system where money is going to kill innocent people all the time, which has been happening for many, many years, as Chris has pointed out. At least since 2001, but more than likely, many, many years before that.
It's George III, really, probably.
Well,
before.
So, and it's all about it's all about the big bankers. It's the bankers who are running the countries. They're not the governments are really secondary to the bankers. The bankers rule everything, and they finance the wars for their own gains. So it was a breath of fresh air to leave the UK for that reason. That amongst other reasons. But we've obviously we're still tied financially with the UK, and it's not so simple to just say, right, I'll sell up, or I'll do this, or I'll do that, because if I do sell up, then they're coming at me with capital gains, and it's like, so it's a tricky situation. I've had to sell a couple of properties recently, which I've still not dealt with the capital gains tax yet, because the accountant hasn't dealt with that yet. But obviously, I don't want to be giving 30% of any capital gain to the government to then spend at least 10% on killing innocent people.
This is Chris just coming back. Is your accountant sort of on board? Can he or she hold the money?
I doubt it, to be honest. I've not really discussed it with him yet.
They'll have to do what you tell them, won't they? But if it's an address you need, that's not a problem. But obviously there are other things to consider. But yes, Chris, are you there yet? Cool.
Yep.
Right. Did you get the gist of the question?
I'm sorry, I was cut off before I really understood what the question was.
Sorry, Darren, you might have to go again, but Darren's basically moved to Costa Rica, lucky Darren, because they don't have a standing army. And so there's properties in England that he'd like to withhold the tax on.
Yeah, we have we set up an LLP a little while ago through some advice because they changed the taxation rules for properties, so landlords have to pay tax on any mortgage payments if they go over the tax threshold into the higher tax bracket. So you pay 20% tax. Obviously, we're not happy to be paying into a system where it is a percentage is going towards harming innocent civilians around the world and in our own country. Obviously with the medical interventions that were going on recently, that's a huge problem that we wanted to avoid, and it was looking very draconian in 2021, as you probably know. So my question really is obviously about how I go about because posting things out from here is extremely expensive. The postal service here is very, very sketchy. So I mean, if I could send several notices with a wet ink signature to somebody in the UK who could then post them out as and when they're needed, would that be a possibility?
Well, I suppose it would, yes. But I think it is important to operate on the systems they use for us as well. And although they tend to do things by letter, there's nothing wrong in doing it by email. And so I think you can contact them by email particularly. But I would also think that we can get one or two people here to help you for a small fee and do some of the responsibility, take responsibility as trustees of your trust. So if we set up a corporate trust for you, or you set up a corporate trust and appoint us as trustees, we may be able to deal with it in that way.
Right. Okay. Yeah. No, that could be
it's important to set up a limited liability company owning the property if possible.
Yeah, well, that's what I've got a limited liability partnership which we set up in 2020, with the intention to incorporate everything into it. But the problem is they've just they're not HMRC have turned around and said that that's not an avenue, because basically the way it was set up was so that you transferred any capital gain into shares into the limited company, so that there was no capital gain to pay at the time, and no stamp duty, etc. After 3 years of having the LLP, but they've just reneged on that and said that they're disputing that now. So the company I was using are in dispute with HMRC regarding that matter, and that's going to take some time. But obviously, in the meantime, the accountant I'm using is utilising my children's tax allowances to offset my tax liability. But then it's making it more and more tricky. And then my children are now 23 and 18, so they're starting to earn money, so they won't be able to utilise their tax allowance. So it's just like so many headaches, to go with.
I think the important thing to remember, Darren, is that this is a criminal offence by the individuals in the Revenue and Customs who are continuing to try to take money from you. We need to push back. Have a look at the letter and new declaration and deed on the website, and then contact us again, perhaps through Susie on the website, and we can see what we can do at this end to help.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. Thank you.
And Darren, don't forget that for them to get any money out of you, they need a valid court order.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
Have you got the info@probityco.org?
I've just written it down, when you mentioned it earlier.
Okay, cool. Because it's just the website's going to change on Wednesday. I'll just look at a different look website, but we'll be going mainly through the email for contacting people. But yeah, we can sort something out easily so that we could deal with the paperwork here, and then you'd either have to, I don't know hopefully your accountant will be on board with you, but.
Yeah. Well, it's difficult because it's difficult to find an accountant who will actually deal with the situation because it's so sketchy with they changed all the taxation rules regarding landlords. But it makes it more difficult for me with mortgages to incorporate because of being overseas now. I'm classed as a non-resident landlord, so it makes it even more tricky. So, but the thing is, if I can say to them, well, here's the money, but it's in a trust, and it's in a promissory note or whatever, and then until you satisfy these conditions on the revocable trust declaration, then the money's not coming to you anyway because you're using it for nefarious purposes.
Yeah. Absolutely, and the important bit is to appoint different trustees, and they have to deal with your trustee once you have paid the money into trust.
Yeah.
For them as beneficiaries, and the trustee, they must deal with the trustee.
Yeah, right. So the trustee holds the money until
it belongs technically to the trustee. It doesn't belong to you once you have signed that declaration and deed.
Yeah.
You have handed over the money to pay the Revenue and Customs to the trustee to hold on behalf of the beneficiary, which is the government. The primary beneficiary, and only if you get no response by the 1st of January 2025, the trustee is then duty bound to hand the money to the secondary beneficiary. And if you are the secondary beneficiary, then it comes back to you, and they cannot claim any money from you for the previous period because they've used it for criminal purposes.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, they can't write their own legislation and then go against it, but they seem to do that all the time, as we see with the council tax and all the other things. I mean, I was with I was following the David Robinson many years ago with the lawful rebellion, practical lawful dissent, etc. And the courts just overrode everything. They just wouldn't listen to anything anybody said.
This is why we have to push back at some of these magistrates and judges and others and charge them with criminal offences for charging you money and knowing it's going for criminal purposes.
Well, yeah, it's for aiding and abetting terrorism. It's financing terrorism, isn't it? So
and genocide.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, yeah, just email us and we'll
okay. Yeah, thank you.
All right, welcome. Enjoy Costa Rica. Not totally jealous. Bazza, did you want to say something? You had your hand up. Bazza?
I did have my hand up, yes. But I was going to say the latest experience in 2024 at the Magistrates Court, I went in support of another lady, and she was in support of me. The presiding magistrate heard a case first, and she wasn't fully aware of everything which goes on, but she did mention the consolidated fund and whether or not he ended up, this presiding magistrate, making a liability order. To which I said, go back in 3 or 4 days and to ask to see the court register and the memorandum of entry to see if there's actually an entry been made. Because now, going after 3 or 4 years' experience, they're saying, well, if you've got a witness to somebody actually announcing that the liability order's been made, and all sorts of excuses. But going back to what you said on that one, it goes back to the Leighton judgment where they're saying the enforcement officers have to evidence a liability order. Well, the same argument could be said for the council. Was the evidence what they're saying there's a liability order? But after, when they, some people have spoke about the council's eye of these courts, after the judge had announced this liability order with the lady, it was me next. But I said before I went, I wanted to go to the restroom, which they agreed to. So I went to the restroom. When I came back, there was another chap in there they listened to a number of speeding offences. So they dealt with him, and we witnessed that. And then it was my turn. So going back, I actually wrote them a letter afterwards because they completely ignore everything you do and everything you say and any correspondence you send them. So after this hearing, I didn't get a liability order. I got an adjournment, so they could probably listen to me again. But I want to read out this parts of this letter. Some of it isn't there, and to date, I've had no response. Now, to start this way back, I asked for freedom of information requests from them, both the court and the council, which have not been forthcoming. I've reminded them of this letter after this hearing in August. Still nothing forthcoming, and it seems like silence is their defence. So basically, I'll try to keep the names out of it because, for one, I'm not a fan of this Zoom. But I put basically, I write to highlight significant concerns surrounding the recent issuance of a summons dated the 21st of June 2024 in the reference case. It has been brought to my attention that critical procedural perquisites were not adhered to during the proceedings, which were adjourned from Wednesday the 17th of July to the same time on Wednesday the 14th of August. These lapses raise pertinent doubts regarding the fairness and legality of the legal process. My first awareness of the case number surfaced as I reviewed the court listing schedule at the court on the date of the hearing. I had no prior knowledge of the case number before this, and I have not received any communication about a designated case progression officer either prior to or following the hearing, leading to a lack of transparency and procedural uncertainties surrounding this case. In particular, my district council's failure to inform the court about my caution notice and opportunity remedy, of which I quoted a reference number dated the 25th of April 2024, is significant. Section 15 emphasises the requirement to notify the court when initiating a complaint regarding this dispute. Failure to do so could be construed as not only attempting to mislead the court and pervert the course of justice. Moreover, under Rule 3A case management at 4, in seeking a summons, it's imperative to disclose the details of the case progression officer responsible for assisting the court in clarifying the issues to be addressed. Of significant and important, I'll miss that bit out. In my initial action, so this is actually at the court, I formally established the magistrate court as both the court of law and a court of record, a confirmation validated by both the court's legal advisor and the presiding magistrate. Subsequently, I conscientiously reiterated the stipulations outlined in the Equal Treatment Bench Book to the court and proceeded to ascertain the identities of the magistrates present. Initially met with silence, I firmly asserted that anonymity in withholding the names of the magistrates was impermissible. After a period of contemplation, the presiding magistrate disclosed their name, while the others opted to remain anonymous. It is crucial to elucidate that although magistrates are not mandated to possess legal qualifications, they receive guidance on legal matters, practices and procedures while in court from legal professionals authorised by the law of Chief Justice, known as Justice's legal advisors. These advisors bear the responsibility of furnishing the court with all pertinent legal precedents, including dissenting opinions that may challenge the case at hand. However, a notable lapse occurred in the proceedings as the legal advisor failed to bring to the attention of the magistrates relevant case law of R.V. Felixstowe Justice's ex parte lien.
Basil, I'm finding it a bit difficult to keep up with this. Can you focus on just what it is you wanted to ask? Or
well, it's not something I wanted to ask. I wanted to try to make people aware of my experience. of these courts, because basically,
right,
whatever I've done, and I've done everything legally, and is that everything is just completely being ignored.
Yes.
So I just get the impression, well, it's a definite impression, we're asking justice from the criminals, and we ain't going to get it.
Well, we can, and I think what we've got to do is to keep looking at the things that are happening and keep pushing in different ways, as has been explained today. And one or two of these are going to come to fruition. And Hugh was mentioning Lilius's case and others that are going well and moving forward. So we've just got to try everything. And the purpose of this session really is to try to explain to people what is working and why, and to answer their questions. Now, we've got about another 15 minutes or so to go. If you can put your, the main rationale into a few words, that'd be great.
Well, basically, Chris, what I'm saying is that I have tried everything, both in a legal sense and a lawful sense, and writing to both the court and the council, and everything is completely ignored.
Yes.
So I'm finding it very difficult to understand where, if any, I will get justice. Which I've always come from the start. Until we get the numbers, and hopefully that number's increasing after your visit to UK column when that was filmed. I don't know whether the numbers increase from that. But until we get numbers and people are more, if you like, awake, in inverted commas, then I just think we're just being ignored.
Well, that's
yes,
true.
I mean, I'm afraid that's broadly the case. You're quite right. We need more people on board with it. But I think what we also need is one or two successful cases. And the sooner we can get a criminal case against somebody, the better. I think Michael wants a quick word, if he may.
Thanks, Chris. I've had two successes in the magistrates' court this year. One a criminal and one a civil case, and I won both of them. And I used the deed of trust in both of them. So yeah, you can.
That's good. That's good, but I'm finding it quite difficult.
Yeah, it is difficult, but unfortunately.
We're going to do another couple of things. We're going to do pledging for the students, because it's a lot easier and there's 2 million of them, then they don't have to take any risks, so they just pledge that they're not going to pay any tax when they leave college. And then the other thing is we are going to start taking people to court. Sorry, carry on.
Well, I just wanted to say that struggles for justice are difficult. Nelson Mandela was in prison for 27 years. This is what it takes. So, Baza, credit to you, and credit to you for coming on this call. So hopefully that being with other people who are engaged in the same campaign will be uplifting for you. The struggle for justice goes on.
Yes, but Rich, I've been at this probably longer than most people on here. I started this journey in 2021.
Yep.
It was initially with council tax before all these dreadful conflicts, of course, but. Yeah, so now I'm tackling this on two fronts. I'm tackling it from what was initially was the Peacekeepers Not challenge, and also the war crimes now as well. But these people, dear me, this it's a sick puppy, this world, because it's not what you ever imagined before you go down the rabbit hole.
Absolutely right. Anyway, Baza, keep going, and we'll try and get some successes to you, and have a go at the new declaration and deed and the letters that go with it. They may stimulate some action from the other side.
Okay, I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Baza does write brilliant letters as well as Michael and lots of other people here, so it's great because it's they're not templates. Right, so David.
And so they will ignore everything because they don't know how to deal with it. They're just trying to protect themselves and protect their salaries and their pensions and everything. So they'll just do whatever the computer tells them to do on the next step, and they ignore everything else. And so I'm expecting at some point I may be in court. And so to try and keep one step ahead, I'm just learning everything I need to know about how to defend myself in court, which is, learning about doing the court audit process. I'm watching court cases that are live streamed from the High Court. Just so that if and when that time comes, I feel prepared to represent myself in court. So that's really what I wanted to say. Let's keep it a step ahead of them, and we know they'll ignore everything because they have no other defence.
Well done, thanks, David. That's very helpful.
And also, I would just say, like Crypto Rich was saying before about the affidavit. they have been incredibly powerful in the past when people, and what they're doing to us, aren't they, is waiting for us not to say anything, and that just constitutes acquiescence. And the beauty of the affidavit, it swaps it around, doesn't it? You've sent them the option to, and then when they don't say anything or they don't rebut, then it's fixed.
Hopefully.
Until they shoot us.
Right. Somebody else, did anybody else have questions, by the way? Or, I just wanted to say a few things before we finish. But before that, if there are other questions people want to raise, let's do that now. If not, right. It's very important. I'm giving a talk or two talks at Canterbury next weekend, one on Saturday, one on Sunday. And the focus is going to be on prosecuting the people who are funding and financing what's going on, including the courts and others, on one day. And the second day, we need to really focus on the solutions. How are we going to create a decent society? We can start bringing this one down, but we've got to, at the same time, create solutions. We need to be looking at what are the political, financial, legal, corporate, organizational actions and systems that we need to start to replace the current ones with new, innovative ones so that we create a decent society. So what would be very useful from everybody is to hear from you. Perhaps you could send it in to info@probityco.org, is it? Yep. To talk about the 2 or 3 things you would most like to see changed in our society at the moment. I think what we've got to do is to try to base our strategy on people's needs. One of the main things that we are needing to change in this current society in order to bring about a better one. And I'd love to hear from everybody here on the Q&A what your thoughts are, and that would be very helpful. So that's really it from me for the moment. Thanks.
Okay.
Is it any points you wanted to raise, Susie?
Nope.
How many pages are we allowed to put for what we like to see?
Well, let's put it this way. If it's too long, more than about a page, I would find very difficult to deal with. If there's 50 people responding, that's 50 pages of work if it's one page. But I'd much prefer, a couple of sentences for each of 3 things. Say 75, 100 words at the most.
Okay, we'll try to do that.
Thank you. That'd be really helpful, and we can start to build the picture of where we should be going as a decent society, democratic and
does it have to be legal? Does it have to be legal? Can we just have a purge of, Parliament?
Of what?
Purge. You've never seen the film The Purge? You can shoot anybody you like for a day.
No, I haven't seen that film.
Hey, it makes you feel a lot better, I can tell you.
Susie, this could be hate crime. You do realise that?
Hate crime. It is a hate crime. Oh yes. Anyway, no, brilliant. Has anybody got anything else to say? Marco, you were very quiet. That's good. We'll leave. All right.
I'd like to say something. I've got. I don't know if everybody's seen it, but I did an interview with David, which is going to be on my channel in a few days' time, about how he's using this process with council tax. If anybody's connected to any politicians or anybody within any anti-war movement and stuff, I will. I'll talk to anybody about this. And if anybody here is willing to come on my channel to give their own story about how it's going, then please send me a message here or via Susie, via the main email, and she'll pass it on to me.
Cool. Brilliant.
The more stories we get out, the more it seems like, it inspires other people to see ordinary people like us engaging in this.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I will put that out as well as a reminder. And Melly, just one last quick one then.
Yes.
So just to you, Chris, really, obviously you wanting to put some questions out there for accountability. I think, something that really, I feel quite passionate about is that anybody that's representing us in government, they have to, there has to be transparency with any business that they're involved with. In fact, they shouldn't be involved in any businesses. They should be there absolutely just doing the job in hand for the people within their community, and that's something I feel really strongly about. And the other thing is that the monies that we pay into our council, that they go into our communities, that our communities are taken care of. That's it. You know, we want, you know, our policing, our schools, our streets, everything to something we want to be proud of again. You know, that's where our money should be going. So that's just a couple of things I wanted to say, really.
Brilliant. Well done. Thanks very much. That's exactly the sort of things that we need to have from everybody, the main issues, and we can build a strategy around those. Yep. Have a good fortnight, and we'll see you in a fortnight's time.